if we think about emotions, what are emotions but different biochemical markers in our body match with our nervous system that gives us a sense of how we feel. Now, we are meant to feel all of life. The anger, the fear, the excitement, the worry, the anxiousness, the grief. This allows us to feel life. But these emotions are meant to come and go so that we can navigate ourselves through the world.
Behind the practice.
Welcome to Behind the Practice. I'm Sean Quintero, your host, and with me in the studio today is Kien Vuu, author of Thrive State, your blueprint for optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. Thank you so much, Dr. Kien.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so, okay, I started reading your book, and I immediately went to the sleep section because I have a 3-year-old, and my sleep is horrid right now. And you said something really interesting in here. I'm going to just read a quick passage. You said, when it comes to sleep, I'm probably like just you and millions of people who at one point or another in life underestimated the value of a good night's sleep. Tell us a little bit about how we can get better sleep and value it.
Oh, thanks for mentioning sleep. It's the number one pillar in the book because that's something that is so integral as a part of our day to detox, for our body to rejuvenate, to completely recover. That is so pivotal. And as a hustling surgeon in my former life, that contributed to diabetes, that contributed to my metabolism not being well and just being fatigued all the time. And when you're fatigued, you don't show up as well. You're not making decisions that well. You're not performing at your best. You're short with the people around you. And so it is so Central to get good sleep. And good night's sleep starts in the morning. You know, sleep is something that is ingrained into how we function, every single day. It resets our hormones. So when we get up in the morning, getting good sunlight and moving is the first thing I do to really reset the circadian rhythm. And then throughout the day, where I find people are having such a difficult time sleeping at night is they're still in stress mode. They're still worrying about the email that they didn't send or the decision that they have to make or the argument or the incident at work that really stresses them out. So when you're going to bed, your body is actually thinking, where's that saber-toothed tiger?
Yeah.
It's still lurking. And then it doesn't allow you to get good sleep. So throughout the day, I definitely work in periods of time where I get to ground, where I get to remove the immediate stress in that period of time and allow myself to lock in. In the evening, I also give myself a really nice routine by not going to my phone, not exposing myself to blue light, giving myself a nice little massage, taking a warm bath or shower. And whatever that routine is, you want to be able to downshift your mind and your nervous system to really receive this nourishment that you're about to have, and creating almost like a mini ceremony or ritual around that. That's been a game changer. And if you're not getting good sleep, one of the things it's my go-to throughout the day if I'm feeling a little bit tired, is if you go to YouTube, Google, look up Yoga Nidra. It's an ancient practice of regulating your nervous system where you're not taking a nap. You're just taking your focus away from the outside world, giving attention to your breath and different portions of your body, and it's like a nervous system massage through the day that really wakes you up, puts you back into performance mode.
Wow. There's this kind of approach of keeping sleep sacred and the routine before and after, this really being intentional around it. Why do you think so many people wake up and just get going and then get to bed and try to fall asleep, and it's such a rushed process?
Well, my whole concept behind the book Thrive State is really become a little bit more conscious about how we live life. If we're not conscious about how we live life, most human bodies are hardwired for fear and survival. And most of that starts initially when we're conceived, and then also when we grow up as children. Not being safe, not being loved, not feeling connected, we start to build these egos, these identities, I need to achieve success, I need to control my entire environment, and this becomes who we are. And most people aren't conscious that they're living in this fear-based survival programming. If you're running that program in your body, every time you're awake, you're worried about caring for the next person, the next thing you have to do at work, the thing in the social media that's going to jolt you, because you're in that consciousness. And if you stay in that consciousness, your entire day is probably just in that ego that allows you not to really be truly present to the fact that you are alive, that you've got this gift, that you have the ability to consciously choose how you really want to spend your day.
Yeah.
And if we're not conscious there and we're running that other program is actually spending all your body's ATP on protection. So your mind is always focused on the next fire you have to put out, stresses in your life, rather than actively choosing how you want to spend your day, how you want to nourish your body. So people wake up, in that state because they're in that program. And my work in organizations, working with physicians, is there's a part of our neural wiring called the default mode network. It's everybody that's got this human meat suit has this system of fear and survival. The key is, can we awaken to the fact that we're in the program and then consciously make a new choice about how we want to live life?
Yeah, that's amazing. The next chapter was chapter 7 that I immediately went to, which was all about mastering stress.
Yeah.
And how abundant stress is in our society. And you mentioned here stress and emotional mastery is so key. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. So if we think about emotions, what are emotions but different biochemical markers in our body match with our nervous system that gives us a sense of how we feel. Now, we are meant to feel all of life.
Yeah.
The anger, the fear, the excitement, the worry, the anxiousness, the grief. This allows us to feel life. But these emotions are meant to come and go so that we can navigate ourselves through the world. If we're stuck in fear and survival mode, if our nervous system is that sympathetic dominant, what happens is your body thinks you're constantly in danger. So if your emotional home, where you spend most of your time, is stress, worry, anxiety, resentment, anger, what happens is cortisol in your level goes up, and you're basically sending energetic signals to your mitochondria, to your DNA, that you're in danger. That actually turns on genes of inflammation. It will turn down your genes of immunity, and all your body's ATP, your energetic resources, is directed towards protection.
Yeah, survival.
Where do you think your cells are going to, perform? They're not going to perform really well, right? Even look at your teams or your families or your organizations. When they are in pressure mode, performance goes down. When you could relieve that, when your performance goes up. So, in terms of stress is the major driver of telomere shortening, for inflammation, for causing chronic symptoms and chronic disease. And much of that stress is not actually the incident, but the perception of the incident that will drive the physiologic change in your body.
Yeah.
So the key, once again, is awakening, being conscious of the potential programs that are putting you in stress.
Yeah.
And then always allowing yourself to remember that you are safe, that you are loved, that you're connected. And then from that place, how now do you want to live life?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier Yoga Nidra, and I know in your book you also mentioned Qigong and other different alternative practices. Can you tell us a little bit how we can incorporate these things in what you just talked about with team and staff and kind of at an organizational level? How do we operationalize that?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of somatic and energy practices that can take anywhere from seconds to a couple of minutes that completely shift your state, your energy. And your energy, your signal, how you carry yourself in the world is felt not only by every single cell in your body, but other people feel it too. When you're angry, when you're stressed, all the cortisol floating around your body, the hormones of stress is speaking to your DNA and your mitochondria, making them really fearful and, bringing down their performance. But that very same stress, what you're feeling, the anger, the energy, other people feel it.
Yeah.
how many of you seen somebody walk in through the door and they're all stressed out, and all of a sudden the entire energy of the room shifts? So we have to be conscious that our energy, our signal, creates a biofield around us, and it speaks to our biology, it speaks to everything around us. And if we can use somatic techniques, energetic techniques to shift our energy, all of a sudden we're shifting the messages that we give to ourselves, and we're shifting the messages that we're giving to the people around us. So if I could do a couple of practices, and I do in my keynotes all the time, I get them through movement, breath, laughter, and all of a sudden they change. Like the thing that, they were thinking about strolling or pissed off about, all of a sudden everything changes. Nothing externally really shifted, but their energy shifted. And all of a sudden they can go through that situation with new clarity, new calm, like better connection with other people. So if you can learn to shift your states, you really allow yourself to have mastery over your biology and also what you create in your reality, because you're working with other people that feel your energy.
That's amazing. And it reminds me of a quote I once heard, which is, what happens around you is oftentimes dictated with what's happening within you.
Absolutely.
Can you give us a case study of somebody that you've worked with where things just begin to shift?
So my former life, I was chief of interventional oncology, and I was using minimally invasive procedures to treat a lot of cancer. And I have a patient, Bruce, that had liver cancer, and I treated him multiple different times, and the cancer kept coming back. Every time I treated him, I basically placed a little tube down the cancer, injected chemotherapy, and plugged it up to kind of kill off the cancer, but it'll keep coming back.
Yeah.
It got to a point where we didn't know if he was going to live for very long. The cancer actually, it was in his liver, and it was invading his portal vein. When that happens, your chance of a 5-year survival is about 2%.
They're weaker.
At that time, he was like, you know what, Dr. Vuu, I know I probably don't have a lot of time left, and I've been estranged from my brothers. Every time he thought of his brother, there was all this resentment, and they weren't together, and it was carrying something really heavy in his heart. And so what he did was he started to write letters to all his brothers asking for forgiveness and wanting to start over.
Wow.
Just like really come to understand the beauty that is life, and with every breath he gets to choose how he wants to live it. He doesn't want to live it with resentment and anger anymore.
Yeah.
I've been treating this guy probably every 3 months for a little bit, only because a little bit of cancer came back. But over the course of this, where he just released so much of this heavy energy in him, he has been cancer-free for over a decade.
Wow.
And the cancers have never returned since he did that deep internal work.
Yeah.
And so what I understand now is these emotions of trauma, of anger, these blocked energies we have in our body, our cells still feel it. It's giving our body the environments of stress and danger, and it doesn't have the capacity to have a good immune system to fight off infections and cancers, or to perform at our very best. And so, that's just one of many different examples in my own clinical practice where I saw shifting mindset, shifting emotions, shifting how you see life will shift your biology.
Wow. That's incredibly powerful, and it kind of leads me to how you start ending the book, which is the Thrive State Advantage, going from me to we. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. A lot of times people feel where does spirituality or purpose, we always hear that it adds years to people's life, but why is that? Well, in my book, we really explore why that is the case. Why biologically purpose gives us more meaning, more life. If you take a look at this, most of the things that stress us out, what are we worried about?
Yeah. People, ourselves.
Ourselves.
Yeah.
Not getting enough money, not being good enough, not belonging. And we go through the entire life feeling that way. We feel anxious, depressed when we are focused on us. Because we are in fear and survival mode.
Yeah.
That drives the biology of inflammation. That decreases our immune system. That puts us... And then if we live in that way, hell, we're not going to sleep. Who cares what I eat?
Yeah.
I feel isolated. I feel stressed. I'm alone. I'm not connecting with other people. that drives an energetic signal in your body that says that you're not well, and it tells that to your genes, and all of a sudden you get disease in your body.
So,
But if you feel like you're connected to something much greater than yourself, when you're here knowing that you have something to give, if your focus is on that, even though you don't have a lot of your bank account, but you can give a smile, you can give your advice, you can give your time to other people, if you share that, you're giving your body a very important signal that you are safe, that you are loved, that you are connected. And the more we share in that capacity, we've seen people maintain their telomeres. They actually lower inflammation in their body. Their immune system becomes better when we start to focus on other people. So our body is really rewarding us for fulfilling on purpose. When we are focused on us and who we are and scarcity, it diminishes us. But if we know that we're truly connected with others and live in that capacity, it gives us more life, more energy. And here's the strange thing. What we see in our body is mirrored out in society. If a cell feels like it's lonely, like screw everything else, I'm by myself, I just need to grow, screw it. That is cancer in the body.
Yeah.
And we see cancers in the world. If the body feels like it's in danger, your immune system starts to rev up and go, oh my God, there's danger. Let me shoot stuff. Let me shoot stuff that's myself. That's when you get autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
In the world, we have the version of that as well. This is all forgetting that basically all the cells in our body is actually intimately connected that forms me.
Yeah.
And I, through my consciousness and the messages I give to myself by how I live my life, gives them the capacity to truly know that this entire thing is connected and forming me to give me life and human potential. We are individual cells in the body of our families, of our teams, of our organizations. And when we start to remember that we are not separate, that we're here to lift each other up, all of a sudden we help the health of humanity as well.
That's beautiful. I'll give you the final word. There's somebody listening who's really encouraged. What is one thing they can do right now to start to see some of the benefit of being in the Thrive state?
Amazing. Well, I want you to remember the term impact, which is I am, pause, awareness, choice, and take action. Every moment in life when I get stressed out, I remember that phrase impact. When I'm walking through a door before I start a conversation, impact. And what does that mean? I am. I think to turn off the fear and survival mechanism, we need to know who we are, and what I believe for every human being who's breathing is safe, is loved, is connected. And you want to decide if you're joy, if you're generous, all these attributes of yourself. This is who you want to be, and you could choose that no matter what you have in your bank account, what title you have. You choose these things.
Yeah.
And then you pause. You can be aware of the stress that's happening in your body. You can be aware of all the things that are potentially bringing you down, shake it out, and then you choose. You choose from your I am. Who do you want to be? And then you finally take action from that place. And every time you insert impact, you are just being a little bit more conscious about how you live your life. And you don't have to make huge changes. Here's the other thing. Small, little, tiny changes of the direction of the person you know you're here to be makes a big difference. And applaud yourself for making these tiny changes.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of a ship. You know, you started at the same point, but 1 degree off, you're going to end up in a very different space. So just make those 1 degree shifts,
tiny,
and it makes a meaningful difference over time. Thank you so much, Dr. Kien Vuu. This has been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for watching this show. Dr. Kien, how do people get more information if they're ready?
They're ready, and they want to, well, follow me all over social media. I'm Dr. VMD, DOCTOR VMD. I've got a lot of free resources at my website at kienvuu.com.
Thank you so much for watching Behind the Practice. I'm Sean Quintero, your host, and we'll see you in the next episode. Behind the Practice is produced by Next Step Social and Podcasting and hosted by Katie Brinkley and Sean Quintero. A special thank you to our guests today. This episode was recorded live at the Boston BioLife Functional Longevity Summit. A special thank you to the team that helped make this podcast happen.